So there he is again. Like it's the second time this British professor has insulted my country, and they don't like it. We are civil. But if you do threaten American oil supply or quote unquote freedom, we will send over drones.
Welcome to polypsych.org.
Almost there, just one more time.
Welcome to polypsych.org.
We talked to Dr. Charles Jones at Cambridge with the underlying question being, can a just war truly exist? We asked, would an ends justify the means approach to international relations in which the United States acted with military aggression to incorporate the rest of the world be in line with American ideals? And that extended from our several wars in the Middle East, specifically the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Libya, Syria, Nigeria via drone strikes, Yemen, and now possible conflicts with Russia and North Korea. So I wanted to know if we started acting like the British Empire did, Professor Cambridge, if we started taking territory, would that be in line with our ideals? To which he responded,
I'm half inclined to echo Gandhi's quip. American ideals? That sounds like a good idea. Gandhi, you
freaking
funny Gandhi.
You British.
Seriously, a U.S. imperialism of the sort you describe would be entirely inconsistent with what's best in the country's political tradition. Besides, it's one thing to conquer and another to govern. Ooh, good point. It's if Iraq and Afghanistan taught us only one lesson, that surely is it.
That's perfectly fair.
Yep.
That's 100% fair. We spent $2 trillion in Iraq, but that estimate could grow to over 6 million. 6 million. I wish it was only 6 million. At one point, we were spending like 6 million every hour. Anyway, that $2 trillion that we spent in Iraq could grow to $6 trillion in the next 4 decades when you include interest. So, I don't know. To compare it to the British Empire, though, like they took territory and did govern it. So, I don't know. It would be interesting if America decided to be the new empire on the block. But we tried it, or tried something like it in Iraq, at least changing a form of government hands-on, and it cost us $2 trillion in the possible bankruptcy of our country. So anyway, the next question that we asked him was, what would the layman find most interesting and accessible within your research? And this is where we wanted him to, quote-unquote, nerd out. And we said that on the email, to which this was his response.
A mess to, quote, nerd out about my research. I had to Google this and find that it means to get overexcited about something that isn't cool. Cool. Well, you asked for it. I think my next book will interest more people than anything I've written before. Its working title is Radical Sisters, and it's a collective biography of 4 sisters, daughters of a wealthy London lawyer who espoused every left-wing cause going between 1840 and 1890, including the abolition of slavery, the unification of Italy, and women's suffrage. Of what I've already published, I think my 2007 American Civilization, that Gandhi quip again, civilization, that sounds like a good idea.
So there he is again. Like it's the second time this British professor has insulted my country, and they don't like it. We are civil, but if you do threaten American oil supply or quote unquote freedom, we will send over drones. It's like our deal now. So the next question we asked him was, if you were to give advice to a student thinking of pursuing a PhD in international relations, which is his specialty, what advice would you give them?
He says, unless you are determined to be an academic, the long hours, the low status, the relative poverty, he shines that in such a poor light. Work for an NGO, a TNC, the UN, an army, or a diplomatic corps for a few years, and save the PhD for when you're burnt out at 40. Still capable of critical reflection on practice and content to enter the monastery.
There's a kind of a thought that is extended to a lot of different professors, the fact that their freedom of thinking is limited by the publish or perish mentality of their university. Which is really unfortunate because you have some of the brightest minds and
passionate
about a specific subject, enough to go into it for 6+ years. And they're stuck with having to produce articles over and over and over and over again, when in actuality, maybe taking 3 years to extend their specific study would be better for them, rather than splitting it up so that they can hurry up and publish more things so that they can be considered productive by their university. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. And I think there were a few professors that said just as much. Like, it's not good that they have to constantly publish.
At some point you start to wonder, like, all this writing that you're doing, like, is it overshadowing the time that you have to research and actually get something out that's more original? Not to say that what they write isn't all original, but I mean, you can only write so much about a topic without going and re-upping on your research or updating your research at some point, you know? And I think it's just important to take the pressure off a little bit to write and be published, get your books out, and, you know, market your books.
I'd be curious.
Focus more on...
Yeah, I'd be curious to know if professors at teaching institutions are more inclined to write books that way, to come up with like a very large, comprehensive book on their craft versus constantly producing more research at research institutions. Professors at research institutions are constantly spread thin by having to produce more scholarly articles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to get out your knowledge. You got to be able to share it. The research only goes so far or the research, rather, it can't go anywhere if it just stops at their brain.
That's fair. All right. So the next question we have for him was, with all the funding in the world, what would you have researched and how?
In my heart of hearts, I am a very traditional historian, believing that academics shouldn't buy themselves out with big research grants, leaving their students to be taught by short contract TAs, that historians need to see their sources themselves, and that teaching and research go hand in hand. Love that point. Given unlimited funding, I might well have bought myself out of teaching and admin and stuck to the history of international business, perhaps ending up in the other Cambridge, like my distinguished colleague Jeff Jones. But if I'd done that, I would never have gotten interested in the ethics of war or South America as a distinctive society of states. So with unlimited resources, I would have been the poorer.
That's interesting. If you gave him more money, he would have been even poorer.
That's good for him, though, because that means he would have been doing what he really wanted to do. And, it's not the money that concerns him. It's the work, and it's getting the work out there to other people who are just as fascinated by his field.
Yeah, I wish that there wasn't such a disparity between what they wanted to do and what they are allowed to do. And I don't like the fact that there's this huge separation between academic freedom and administrative duties. Like, I don't think that you should have to do things in your university that distract you from the actual thoughts, the thinking processes that lead to these great discoveries.
You know what's funny?
I have to go to this meeting, so I can't. I'm so busy running back and forth that they don't get a chance to think.
Yeah. I mean, granted, like, this is on a little bit of a smaller scale, but to me just as important. I was just thinking about this on the elementary school level. I feel like my kids as teachers would do a lot better. They would fare a lot better if they were given a few less outside of the classroom responsibilities. They are, like this year in particular, I've encountered, there's an app that's very similar to Facebook. It's called Class Dojo. The teachers are apparently required to get on it and make reports of the students' behavior and post pictures, updates. I don't know what exactly they are supposed to be doing, but it looks like they've all been mandated to get on this site and just keep it up to date with what's going on. I feel like that's costing some stuff going on in the classroom, because one of my son's teachers apparently never has time to answer a question he has about the classwork, but I'll get on Class Dojo and see that she's posted 2 pictures of apparently her class hard at work, quote unquote, on some project that she's got them doing. And it's just weird, because like, if she had not posted that post, she would have been able to answer a question.
Oh.
Frustrating. Anyway, I don't know. It just seems to go back to it. It's all the same. Like, these teachers, they go into the education field on any level from elementary to collegiate, and they've got a passion to teach or research or just spread the wealth of information. that's not really what it ends up being once they get into it and they have a real bad eye-opening experience.
It's completely different from what you imagine when you are planning to become a professor or a teacher. Mm-hmm. When you think of a teacher, you're thinking, I'm going to be standing in front of a class doing a specific thing. Or if you're going to be a professor, I'm going to be researching this specific subfield.
Mm-hmm.
And
teach a class on it like maybe twice a week. The rest of the time I can do my research.
Exactly right. But you end up having to run from meeting to meeting that you don't really want to be in. And I have to split this study in half because I need to produce 2 articles instead of 1. It seems like you're trapped in this bureaucratic cycle when I think if the system were made by professors or by teachers, it might look completely different than it does today. Mm-hmm. The show is over. We would like for you to do one thing for us. Tell 2 friends to download the Polypsych podcast. Shoot them an email, a text, a raven, anything. Just tell 2 friends to download the Polypsych podcast. 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 Tell 2 friends to download the Polypsych podcast.
How many friends?
No, like 4 or 5.
I'm gonna tell them all. Thanks, everyone.